Ursus arctos horribilis, the dreadful bear of the north. We're here in British Columbia to see the Great Bear of the Great Bear Rainforest. Let's go.
At SeaDoc, we like to think of ourselves as at least part-time marine mammals. But we never forget that the Salish Sea is a vast ecosystem where everything from the glacier-topped mountains to the Pacific Ocean exists within an interdependent web of life. Many animals tied to the land source the energy they need to survive from the sea. And marine wildlife, like our endangered southern resident orcas, rely completely on upland watersheds for their food. The orca is the undisputed monarch of the sea, but once you touch the coastline, that title goes to the grizzly. You can judge a habitat's health by how well its apex predators are doing. So we want to check in on the reigning king of our vast temperate rainforest. Before we moved in, grizzlies roamed widely in the woodlands bordering the Salish Sea. Their smaller black bear cousins have adapted so well to living near humans, they've often become backyard bears. But grizzlies need larger, unbroken home ranges. So for a chance to study them, we need to gear up and venture an expedition across the border to the extreme edge of the Salish Sea. We touched down in Glendale Cove, a sheltered estuary on British Columbia's Knight Inlet. This is the southern end of the Great Bear Rainforest. While Africa boasts the Masai Mara and Serengeti, North America has the Great Bear. You can see the Big Five on an African safari, but in the Great Bear, you've got a chance to see our Big Seven. Out front, humpbacks and killer whales cruise the fjords. Behind you, the dense, mossy woods are home to cougars, wolves, and 3 kinds of bears: grizzlies, black bears, and the coyote, a stunning black bear subspecies with a ghostly coat softly sprinkled with cinnamon. It's no surprise that the coyotes are better known as spirit bears, and that they hold a sacred place in First Nations culture and lore. These alabaster bruins are concentrated further north along the coast, so we won't encounter them here. But chances are very good that we will get to see the Great Bear of the Great Bear Rainforest, the coastal grizzly.
These Salish Sea grizzlies can grow to 900 pounds and 8 feet tall. That means this guy is life-size.
Our base is a floating eco-lodge owned by 5 First Nations who've been sharing this land with their spiritual relatives, the grizzlies, for more than 10,000 years. We set out in a boat that's about the same length as a full-grown male grizz. But since we don't plan to offer one of them a ride, space shouldn't be a problem. Our guide, Emma LaFontaine, steers us toward the estuary at the head of the cove. This is not a place where you want to run aground and have to spend 6 hours for the water to come up, while the grizzlies debate whether humans in a boat are considered surf or turf.
Okay, we're about to go deep into the heart of grizzly country, so there's a few safety things that we have to follow. 1, absolutely no food with us. 2, no perfume or cologne, or as the grizzlies call it, seasoning.
In bear country, Old Spice isn't an aftershave, it's an actual spice. Knowing that we're headed deep into grizzly habitat, the lichen-draped forest closing in gives this a real heart of darkness vibe. Bears lumber into estuaries like this each fall to renew their most important connection to the sea. These waters should be shimmering with salmon surging upstream, but we're not seeing any at all. It was warm and sunny when we left the dock, a pleasant surprise in one of the wettest places on Earth where 20 feet of rain falls each year. But the shining sun was actually a warning light. Salmon born in the stream spent years growing and fattening up in the sea. They instinctually know that their life's one and only shot at passing on their genes hangs on there being enough water in the spawning grounds for them to dig their nests and mate. But because it's been unseasonably dry, the fish are still holding in deeper water, waiting for the rains to raise the level of the stream. we're not the only ones who expected the fish to be here by now. American dippers are canaries in the coal mine when it comes to salmon streams. The autumn bounty of fish eggs is crucial to their survival and reproduction. A failing salmon run will see few dippers, but these little guys still look hopeful. Fall is also feast season for bald eagles. Last year by this time, the banks were already littered with spawned out salmon carcasses. This big baldy seems to be losing his patience. And a herd of hungry harbor seals is lined up like they're waiting to buy the new iPhone. There's still some time until the water gets too shallow to make our way out of the stream, so Emma suggests we climb into one of the lodge's tree platforms.
In case of emergency, please close door and then get everybody to stand on it.
From our osprey eye view, we'd be able to see any fish entering the stream. Still nothing. Other than no fish, we're surrounded by a lush riot of life.
Coming to a place like this takes you to the birth of the Salish Sea. The glaciers have receded. This amazing rainforest has sprung forth. Rivers are flowing. Salmon have found their way into the fresh water, and there's an amazing assortment of wildlife, bears, eagles, orcas, and you can still come to places like this to experience it.
Suddenly, there's a splash and a flash of brown through the trees. Oh, those rounded classic teddy bear ears and that massive muscular shoulder hump, there's no doubt this is a grizzly. And she's not alone. She's a mom with young, ridiculously cute cubs. Mama bears are famously fiercely protective, but she knew we were up here long before we saw her. She senses we're no threat and just ignores us. One of her cubs, though, he must be a second child. Maybe we will need to make room in the boat for a bear. But Cubby only stays aboard for a moment, then jumps off and trundles along after Mom. Her kids are what scientists call coys, cubs of the year. That means she gave birth to them this past winter. When this grizzly settled into her den, her uterus held eggs fertilized by a male earlier in the year. However, the eggs remained dormant all summer until her body sensed that she put on enough fat reserves not only to survive the upcoming 6-month-long starvation diet called hibernation, but that she was in good enough shape to nurture cubs. Last year saw a big salmon run here, and this girl bedded down in November carrying at least 20% body fat under her thick fur. 2 months later, she was rudely awakened by the birth of 2 tiny cubs, each weighing just a pound. Blind and nearly hairless, the potato-sized babies snuggled and nursed all winter until Mom, who didn't eat or drink a thing the entire time, decided it was safe to dig her family out of their snow-covered den. These living plushies are only 7 months old, but they've already put on 50 times their birth weight, most of it from Mom's incredibly rich fatty milk. If humans grew at the same speed, we'd weigh 500 pounds before our first birthday. Mom is on full alert for fish, but there's still nothing, so she leads the kids into the woods at the back of the estuary. We wait until we're absolutely sure the coast is clear, then hop back in the boat to see if we can find them. We flow down the alpine stream to where its fresh water blends into the tidal marsh. The lush meadow of salt-tolerant sedge thrives even when submerged twice a day by the tides. We carefully scan the edge of the forest, but there's no sign of the grizzlies. A mother with cubs likely wouldn't stray too far from the water and chance missing any fish. Finally, Emma's experienced eyes spot a distinctly fuzzy shadow beneath the tree. Yep, there's one of those affable ears atop the huge, deceptively huggable head. Mama Bear has settled down for a nap. We nose the boat in to watch. This might sound boring, But the privilege of being close enough to track a wild grizzly's sleeping respiration rate is about the coolest thing we can imagine.
This is the dream of every young mother, to take a nice long midday nap.
It's no surprise she's tired. This has already been an eventful year for this family, with all the pressure on Mom's broad shoulders. And they're just now entering into its most critical time. As soon as they left their winter den, Mom began teaching her new fur babies how to survive. A big part of being a bear is eating. That lesson is pretty straightforward. When you're growing up grizzly, you basically eat anything and everything. The hungry little omnivores began mimicking Mom as she mowed down spring grasses. They learned that their oversized shoulder muscles and Freddy Krueger claws evolved so they can easily excavate roots and tubers and rip apart trees and flip over boulders so they can lap up protein-rich insect larvae. Berry season is the sweetest time for bears. Mom introduced them to her favorite summertime patches where they gorged on high-calorie, vitamin-rich superfoods. But they still need to pack on the protein. Grizzlies in western BC dig up squirrels and mice and happily munch the remains of any animal they find, even if it means bullying a cougar off its kill. But unlike their Rocky Mountain relatives, coastal bears' access to seafood means they don't have to depend on taking down large prey like elk or moose. Not that they don't have the weapons and won't use them if the opportunity limps by. Grizzly's 4-inch long, non-retractable claws extend from legs that can deliver swipes more powerful than a heavyweight boxer's punch, run quicker than a galloping horse, and propel them through the water faster than an Olympic swimmer. Add in their bone-crushing bites and thick protective hides, and adult grizzlies have nothing to fear, except maybe humans holding guns or driving trucks. Even a scrawny tweener grizz could turn me into a sloppy Joe with one smack. While adult grizzlies are secure at the top of the food chain, for the cubs, it's a world of big bad wolves and plenty of bigger bears. They'll remain totally dependent on Mom's monstrously maternal instincts for at least 2 years. During this time, her reaction to various encounters is what teaches them friend from foe. An approaching male bear would be considered a threat, but there's less chance of that in places like this, where there's the scent of humans. British Columbia recently outlawed trophy hunting for grizzlies. Boars were always the hunter's main target due to their enormous size, growing twice as heavy as sows. And since they can live more than 20 years, most of the region's adult grizzlies vividly remember when getting too close to man meant the possibility of getting shot. Even after 8 years, the heavily hunted males remain gun-shy. Bears have a ferociously defined sense of personal space, but they don't defend territories. Instead, they have large home ranges that overlap with other bears. In spots like Glendale Cove, which supports a dense population of at least 40 grizzlies, the bears set up bulletin boards so they can communicate without having to be within biting distance.
Heyo.
Earlier, Emma cautiously hiked us into the woods at the back of the estuary, down a bare byway, and into the local grizzlies' Grand Central Station. Here, the stripped, smooth, and discolored bark shows that generations of grizzlies have been leaving their mark on this prominent old Pacific silver fir.
We refer to these as rub trees, bear rub trees. And so what's happening here is in the springtime, males come down, they're looking for mates, they're looking for other bears or who to avoid. They'll rub, they'll claw, they'll bite, and they'll release the sap. And they're leaving this information behind. And the information that they're able to get, or other bears are able to get from this, how old is this bear, male or female, and then is it really dominant, big, what's going on? And so after the males do that, females will come down, and so they'll smell, and they might smell a big dominant male and think, hey, he's strong, he's tough, he's big, he's old, smells like great genes for my cubs. I'm gonna go and meet him in the estuary. And this is sort of like, Tinder for bears, or we call it Timber, a great dating profile, as well as, a way to avoid other bears. So younger males or younger bears will smell what's going on, smell the big guys, and then avoid them if they can.
Right. This is actual grizzly hair, left behind while they're rubbing to leave a message for other bears.
Females and smaller males do more sniffing than marking compared to big boars, but moms with cubs are often seen rubbing outside the mating season. We wonder if this might be about teaching her sons the behavior they'll need when they grow up. Dr. Melanie Clapham intensely studies the grizzlies of Glendale Cove and uses a series of camera traps to spy on the bears. Her Bear ID project identifies and catalogs grizzlies by their unique facial features, in the same way we ID orcas by their dorsal fins and saddle patches. These non-invasive techniques allow her to track individual bears' movements, life histories, and year-to-year survival of cubs in order to monitor the overall health of the population. Melanie's trail cameras also act as a guest book for the more elusive visitors to the cove. Here, kitty kitty. We're sure all the cougars and bears know we're trespassing, but we didn't run into any of them on our hike. But what we did come across is the next best thing, at least for scientists. We probed the impressive pile, looking for belt buckles and slightly used canisters of bear spray. Instead, we find evidence of their dependence on the estuary this time of year.
What we're seeing in here is a lot of sedge in these big solid pieces.
Right.
Right? Very fibrous, lots of vegetation. But then all of this in here, sorry, I'm going to use my hands. These are blue mussels.
Look at that.
So very typical of the coast here. And so the bears are munching on these quite a lot. The intertidal zone, when the tides go out, is a great food source for bears.
So this is even more proof about how tightly grizzly bears are connected to the ocean. Now, Emma, is this enough? If the salmon don't return, is this enough to sustain them through the winter?
The mussels and the barnacles in the intertidal zone are not going to give them that amount of fat.
This is a great example about the connection between grizzly bears, the ocean, and the forest. We have a huge scat pile here full of marine-derived nutrients. We have barnacles, we have mussels, and it's right underneath of a spruce tree and a red alder. And these nutrients from the ocean are then going to feed this tree. But bears don't just poop on the shoreline. They'll walk kilometers into the forest and go to the bathroom. And these nutrients, whether they come from salmon or mussels, will then feed those trees. And then those trees protect the stream, which is where the salmon are born. And those salmon go out again, get more nutrients, bring them back into this area, and then feed the bears, and the bears feed the forest, and the forest feeds the salmon. It's a beautiful cycle.
There are a lot of barnacle shells in Winnie's poo. Who doesn't like a nice crunchy snack? But this one comes at a cost. Studies have shown that eating barnacles wears down a bear's teeth and may shorten their lives. If this was a summer deposit, it would be filled with berry seeds. Grizzlies are bulldozer-strength ecosystem engineers. They rumble around the landscape, scattering their scat, planting new fields of berries by dropping seeds conveniently packaged in generous heaps of fertilizer. Back on the boat, Nappy the bear is waking up. She takes a sniff. Once again, this female knows we're sitting here and correctly senses we are no threat. She also knows how many of us are on the boat, the flavor of the toothpaste we use, and what we ate for breakfast yesterday. Bears navigate the world using a superpower sense of smell. The intricate maze of turbinate structures inside their prodigious nasal cavities allows them to sniff things out thousands of times better than our puny beaks can. And they're 7 times more sensitive to smells than even the most discerning of dogs. When it comes to coastal bears fishing, there's no, oh well, you should have been here yesterday. This is a race against the coming winter. Between now and then, every calorie counts in the struggle to survive. The cubs will keep nursing in the hibernation den, but mom's milk depends on her putting on enough weight before bedding down. Whatever body fat she carries into the den is all this family will have to live on for the long, cold winter. She won't be able to eat another thing for at least 5 months. Bears evolved to this feast and famine lifestyle by seasonally entering what's called hyperphagia. the bear's sense of being full shuts down. Hunger goes into overdrive. Hyperphagia is like if we celebrated Thanksgiving every day for 2 months. Still no salmon around, so they start in on the salad. Numerous studies have shown that coastal grizzly survival, especially for cubs, is closely tied to how many salmon return each year. In years with low runs, the bears also produce more cortisol, the stress hormone. Not only do they suffer food stress, but mothers with cubs likely need to roam further to make up for the missing calories, putting them at risk from other bears, roads, poachers, and predators. When bears do find plenty of fish, they like to high grade, concentrating on the fattiest, richest parts like eggs. This is natural efficiency in action. Just as eating fish is better than eating grass, slurping up eggs is better than chewing tail fins. And there's no such thing as waste in the forest. Just ask the eagles.
While we would have loved to have seen that salmon-bear interaction, for us, it's just research. But for the bears, their survival depends on it. The good news is we're watching clouds roll in. The forecast for tomorrow is rain. That's the signal for the salmon to come up the stream and reproduce and feed the bears and feed the forest and have the cycle continue once again.
After a few amazing days among the grizzlies, we have to leave Glendale Cove. Fortunately, the rains stay. The salmon get the message and begin their run. But we get word from Night Inlet that it's not a bumper year. We hope that all the grizzlies we met found enough to survive the winter. But the Pacific Northwest's magnificent rainforest wasn't built on there just being barely enough salmon. Bears, wolves, eagles, dippers, seals, sea lions, orcas, fishermen, First Nations, and the forest itself depend on there being enough salmon to feed them all. Plus, there needs to be enough fish that make it past all those hungry mouths to spawn and keep this incredible engine going to drive the entire ecosystem. It's not lost on us that the survival of the Salish Sea's apex predators on both land and sea depend on the health of our salmon, a species whose future is entirely in our hands.
Here's a tale about a bear who's been making the rounds, getting late to hibernate. She's got a pack on them pounds, tending cubs all season, named Fuzzbutt and Swab. Little devils full of mischief and a full-time job, fighting lions, bigger bears, keeping her more than busy. But come fall, every year is crunch time for the grizzly. Her wish is finding fish in her home estuary. Rain's been late and that ain't great, so she's starting to worry. Her wish is finding fish right in their own home range, but rain's been late and that ain't great. Things are starting to change. Streams are sully, trees are down, and the temperature burns. Too many nets, all the wrong bets, hurting spawning returns. Grizz knows her little cubs won't survive winter famine, so if you care about the bears, we gotta leave them some Sam. Fighting lions, bigger bears, keeping her more than busy. But come fall, every year is crunch time for the grizzly. Her wish is finding fish in her home estuary. Rain's been late and that ain't great, so she's starting to